Christine Currat. She's the executive director of the Swiss Biobanking Platform that has been a cornerstone of precision medicine as one of the first projects funded by the SNF, and it's now running nicely. And since I'm also representing the biobank of the Swiss transplantation cohort, I'm experiencing the services, and it's a really great thing, and I'm curious to see what's new.
Thank you very much, Alex. Good morning, everybody. Do you hear me? Thank you very much for the invitation, the introductory words, and so I'm very happy to present you the in the context of this morning, of this symposium, to present you the tools to facilitate sample exchange with the example of Swiss Biobanking Platform. As a reminder, for those who don't know Swiss Biobanking Platform, just trying so that the slides can go to the next one. So as a reminder, Swiss Biobanking Platform is the research infrastructure of national importance supporting the biobanking activities for the human context, but also for the non-human biobanks. It has been mandated and funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation, and SBP is an independent association with different members, composing one, the General Assembly, with ordinary members representing the university hospitals, so the 5 University Hospitals of Switzerland. And within the governing board, we have expert members dealing with liquid tissue and non-human biobanks. Bern is very well represented within our association, with the 3 expert members being from Bern, with the liquid biobank Bern with Carlo Largadière, the tissue biobank Bern with Aurel Perren, and the non-human veterinary biobank with Tossoleb. The idea and the wish of Swiss National Science Foundation is with SBP is to position Switzerland at the forefront of research by facilitating access and optimal usage of high quality samples, and with the SBP to help biobanks increase quality, visibility, accessibility, and interoperability of biobanks. The support that we are giving to biobanks relies not only on the team, the executive team that is in Lausanne, but with a major link within the European network, being the Swiss representative, the Swiss national node within this network, which is really key and very interesting for the researchers, for the biobanks, and for us to give good advice and to rely on other experience from outside countries. We are also asked as SBP we are also considered as a great party within this network, with an example that SBP has been mandated to audit, evaluate the biobank from the Charité in Berlin this summer. So this gives us some great visibility as well, and good feedbacks to go back to the biobanking network. Within Switzerland, the positioning in the national research landscape is also key, because we are dealing with all related to samples, but we collaborate very actively with other national research infrastructures, the Swiss Personalized Health Network that we will heard about with Julia Maurer in the next with the next presentation, but also with the Swiss Clinical Trial Organization, which deals with all the clinical trials. So we really are focused, as I mentioned, on the human and non-human field. This is a great difference with towards the other two initiatives, and we are linked to the European network BBMRI. SBP has been funded in 2016. Now we are in the third funding period given by SNF, and our objectives for these 3 next years is really to promote quality strategy for biobanks on 2 sides, serving both quality management issue with the new ISO norm, but also to work on the sample quality with the pre-analytical factors that really have a great impact on the sample quality and accessibility as well. SBP also promote access and sharing of biobank samples for high quality research, because a lot of samples are stored within biobanks, but really few are used in research. So why is it the case? How we can promote and increase this usage? This is one of the questions that we are very dealing with within also the university hospitals. SBP also has third objective, support the non-human biobanks with specific guidelines and services. First, to consolidate the collaboration with the European network, and finally, to provide a concept for a sustainable funding. As I said, clients for SBP, so who are we supporting? So we have 2 sides. First, of course, the biobanks, who really manage the samples, have samples collected and stored. And on the other side, we also promote and support biobank infrastructures. The difference is that the biobank infrastructures do not have for their own samples, but they offer services to biobanks to collect or to store the samples. The idea with these clients are to help them improve in biobank accountability. We also help them to get compliant with requirements, and that I will present in the next slides, and then promote also biobank harmonization. At the end, also we have secondary beneficiaries, other clients which we are dealing with is the researchers who will at the end use the samples stored in the biobanks. And for them, we are trying to build trust and access to biobanks, help them have reproducibility of results when they do the research with the samples they access to. And one need as well is to have sharing guidelines. How concretely we support these researchers and biobanks? We have built up a combined approach with innovative processes and tools. So on one side, we have needs, we require having a classical approach. What I mean by that is that we produce SOPs, we help decide on different common data sets that needs to be documented for each samples. We provide with working groups as well guidelines to help really biobanks make their practice better. And we publish them on our website. But we really think that having this available on a website is really not sufficient to help biobanks implement these SOPs and this new practice. So for that, we create incentives for biobanks to implement these guidelines with easy to use and different ergonomic tools that I will present you in the next slides. So these tools are based on 3 principles that we have at SBP. Is one, to improve quality, visibility, and interoperability. So we first focused in the first years on quality issues. So we developed a tool called the Biobank Scan, which helped get compliant with all the requirements that the biobank has to face and integrate in their practice, with the issue of 3 different labels, 3 different levels we advise to the biobanks to go to. Once they enter in this biobank scan, they have the possibility also to enter within the BBMRI European network. The second one, once they are here, they can enter in the SBP network exploration tool, giving visibility to the biobanks and to the samples that are stored in the biobanks. And here, this is the new tool that went out that was published, that is on the website now, available this year. And we will build this in the next year together with the biobanks. And now the researchers will be able to benefit of what SBP has been built from the beginning. Our third tool that I will not present in details, but that is planned for these next years, is to provide to the biobanks biobank information management system, helping a majority of biobanks switching from Excel sheets to really a system where traceability can be followed and can be assured for their own practice. To develop all these tools, I briefly present the team, the executive team that I'm leading in Lausanne. On the left side, you have persons that really get in contact with the biobanks, provide the services and the support in terms of scientific question, in terms of quality issues, and in terms of biobanking practice issues. On the right side, you have people that are more hired and implicated in the development of the catalog. So the next, with IT engineers, innovation officers, and we also have a team dedicated to communication and marketing to really promote our tools and to address to the different stakeholders the right message and the right support. Coming back to the first tool that I presented, the Biobank Scan. So it's a step-by-step approach for biobanks to reach the minimal level of requirements. They have the possibility to answer about 120 questions. Then once they have answered these questions, there's an internal review within SBP with my team that go and look into the details, that go into the detailed documentation that the biobanks already has, or for missing documents, SBP is providing specific templates. And at the end of this back and forth review together with the biobank manager, there's the issue of the label, the first label, the Vita one. And then once the label is issued, visibility can be done within the next. The idea also is of this compliance review is that we keep in touch with the biobanks, having a very short annual review where we look with the biobank manager whether the purpose, the aim of the biobank has changed, whether there are new, we check also on how many samples, how many research project has been done with the biobanks, trying to really to promote a good and efficient management of the biobank together with SBP. The asset of this system is to really evaluate and monitor the biobank, to prepare also these biobanks and to get awareness on the new ISO norm on biobanking. This is not a goal per se for the biobanks to really have this ISO norm, but it really, because it's really for the biobanks that have like the liquid biobank Bern, or that have really a visibility and that is really very high in terms of quality issues. So some biobanks just function by their own with individual research projects, which will not be asked to go to this ISO norm, but it really helps us to get aware of what are the requirements that we need to take caution to. It participates with also this process to biobanks education on governance and quality issue in an innovative way, also to harmonize different biobanks. We can compare them and help them to get harmonized on different topics. And of course, at the end, to promote visibility. through the SBP directory and also the BBMRI directory. So as I mentioned, the labelized biobanks gain in quality, accountability, and visibility in the SBP network. You have, so as I presented, 3 different labels. The Vita label is answer the question if I wish to comply with the applicable legal and ethical requirements. The second label is more based on the different processes. And the third one, the Optima, is really having a complete quality management system. As you see on the map on the right, it's the biobanking network that we have now. We are proud to have already 51 biobanks located in all regions of Switzerland. And if you go on the website, you can see that this map is interactive to see exactly the different biobanks being available and labeled in Switzerland. I will not go in the details of the requirements on the different labels, but what is important for me to show you is related to the topic also of the symposium, to show you that for the Vita labels, we check on different ethical and legal standards. We ask to have a biobank regulation in place. We ask to have the MTA or DTUA if the biobanks want to exchange samples with other researchers. We look at the consent, but we also look and on the 1.3 on the communication, on the how is there a process for the return of results, if there are some, how the biobank community communicate with external partners, with the patients, and how it deals with the different complaints. And I think that is key. This could be the biobanks at first sight could be really afraid sometimes of all these issues, but we really guide them through that and give them tools and SOPs and process to really answer all these questions. So once the biobanks are labelized, they get visible in the new tool that Alexander speak about. So the next, where the Swiss transplant cohort study will be very soon available with different samples. This is how the next look like. This is an interactive e-catalog. As you can see when you go on the websites, it's an intuitive and visual tool to discover the network through a simple drag and drop interface. And also the idea is also to connect researchers and biobanks to share biological samples. So as an architecture, we have, so it combines 2 assets. So first having a search at the biobank level, and what will be available very soon in 2022 is also to have the information at the sample level, integrating, being able to choose a samples, also integrating the different pre-analytical factors that are very key to evaluate the sample quality. It is linked this next to the BBMRI network, but it's really focused on sample criteria. We, for all that is related to clinical data that documents more the samples, we work in collaboration with the SPHN distributed clinical cohort tool, so the Clinarion that has been released these last days. And the idea is to have a same creator as an easy, efficient, simple, and same gateway for these 2 tools to have same subject pseudo identifier in both environments and to avoid data duplications between the 2 environments. this is really key also for these two platforms to get linked to each other, so that once you enter on the SBP Next or the SBHN environment, you can really navigate at the end that's a project very easily without saying, okay, I'm at SBP or I'm at SBHN. One of the assets that I can present for the next is first to improve visibilities. We have different communities. There's a mapping of all the different biobanks in Switzerland. You can access to informations on available centers, samples, on the consent, on all the protocols, as I mentioned, the pre-analytical data that are linked to the samples. And we ask the biobanks to import their data, their sample data, and there are regular data updates so that it represents the actual situation of the biobank's freezer. In terms of architecture, there's first, there's no tool to deploy at the hospitals. The biobanks could import their samples data. There's once they have imported their data, there's data quality validation before it becomes visible in the SBP Next. We integrate specific data sets that are aligned with SPHN and that are agreed with the two environments. The scan is located in is hosted on in SIB on the Biomed IT node, and which secure the confidentiality and leverage. Excuse me. It is the same confidentiality issues as SPHN, and so it is secured in that way, and it's a great collaboration. We managed to have the SBP Next having two different access rights. So the biobanks that enter the Next and make their samples visible, they can choose if they want to be visible in the public. So on the website, you can access all these samples. Or we also integrate the possibility for the biobanks to create a specific community, so that the biobank is really dealing in and deciding on which biobank can enter its community, which researcher can enter its community. And we provide this really secured space so that it really feels comfortable and really restricted to the person that he wants to collaborate with. And finally, we also have some terms of use and privacy notice for the biobanks and researchers that are aligned with the GDPR to really give trust in the system and see also for the public how to deal, how the data are processed and secured. So you have two different actors that can work, that can play, I would say, into this Next. So first, the biobanks and the biobank infrastructures, which could be also, once they import their samples, it's really a monitoring platform to make the samples visible for the research community. This Next has been tested and improved with pilot biobanks, with the liquid biobank Bern, with different pathology biobanks in Bern and Zurich. We also have developed this with the Swiss Biobank for the non-human field, and also the Swiss transplant cohort study help us improve the Next so that it helps and it fits the needs of the community. And it is now ready to register the biobanks samples within the next to import the samples data from Excel sheets with a SBP script with specific data sets that will help you to fill in. And then once you have make that, you can choose if you want that your samples become visible publicly or that you would like to create a selected community. We built also this next as an innovative platform, being the foundation of a future one-stop shop. So once you have imported that the sample data and the samples are visible to researchers, the researchers can go and look, select some interested samples, and get in contact directly within the system and make inquiries with the biobanks. Then there's a communication platform where they can, the researcher and the biobank can chat and can have different questions. And the platform allows also to upload some key documents like the MTA or the different process if before going into the signing and the shipment of the biobanks, if the process within the hospital or within the biobanks with a community that evaluates the research project. So all these can be visible within the next, so that the researchers know better how this will be, the collaboration will be with the different biobanks. What is really important is that the biobank is always the only one to decide if the samples are shared with the researcher and are shipped within to the researcher at the end. So here is my presentation, and I'm will be very happy to answer any question that you can have. And I hope that you have seen an overview of the tools delivered by the Swiss Biobanking Platform. Thank you.